Hi everyone, it's Sabrina Woodworth with Work Lessons 101, and today's our last question of the Taboo Work Series questions. Today we'll be discussing age discrimination in the workplace. So in the last 2 months, the sheer volume of direct messages I've gotten on this topic has been overwhelming, and primarily most of them have been the 50 plus age bracket. So I don't feel terribly comfortable addressing this question, so I want this video to serve as a form of getting the discussion started. I try to bring in examples and be as authentic as I can in my answers, simply because I think it's missing in the market right now. But the truth in the matter is I'm in my mid-30s, I'm 13 years into my career, and I haven't experienced age discrimination myself. So I don't have the best advice to give people about how to deal with it, how to cope with it, which is primarily the questions I've been getting. So I want to discuss this topic because I think we can all agree that age discrimination is indeed wrong. It's against the law in most countries. But I don't necessarily know how to deal with it. It's obviously very prevalent in the workforce, just on the sheer volume of questions I've been getting on it. And also I've done a fair bit of research in trying to address this question. And there's been a ton of studies that have indicated that something like two out of three people will have to go through age discrimination in the workforce. So let's discuss it. Age discrimination can be two things. It can be you're too young for a role, or you're too old for a role. This could be your current role or a role that you want to move into. So age discrimination isn't necessarily just being fired due to your age out of an organization. It can be being forbidden a promotion, raise. It can be many things that can be labeled under age discrimination. So that's the first thing. I think the biggest way I'm going to address kind of this topic is some of the people I have spoken to, and when I've gone to details about why they were let go from their organization, I don't personally think it was age discrimination that got them pushed out the door. I know that's a bit of a large statement to make, but again, I'm only hearing one side of the story, and from what I'm hearing, this was the conclusion that I came up with. So let's discuss how to assess your market value. When you're entering as a new grad, or you're 25-year plus experience, you need to make sure what you want is what you can bring and what you can give, what market you bring. So let's just do an example that I've seen out of my own industry. I work in engineering construction, and about 20 years ago, we went from 2D, so two-dimensional design drawings, to a three-dimensional model. And over the course of a few years, a lot of really talented designers were removed out of the industry simply because they weren't able to adapt their mindset and the way they visualized the design from 2D to 3D. So essentially they became obsolete. Their skill set was no longer needed. And I know that's a bit of a harsh thing to say to someone, that their skill set has become obsolete, but that's simply the truth in the matter sometimes. It's no different for businesses. Nokia in the 90s was one of the biggest cell phone companies in the world, and they're not now. They lost their market share. So if you don't stay on top of your skill sets or become stagnant, you eventually might be perceived as a stagnant employee from your observation, which is another point I wanted to make. Anytime discrimination is brought up, especially age discrimination, because it's so hard to prove, you have two perceptions. You have a perception of the employee, and then you have the perception of the organization, and many times those are not aligned. You have an employee that thinks they bring a certain value, deserve a certain title, deserves a certain salary. Then you have an organization that has a skill set that they need to meet and a product that they need to design potentially, and therefore they need their employee to fit that mold. So when those become out of line, or the perception of what value someone brings versus what they think they bring don't align, this is where a lot of time people rush to say it's discrimination. It absolutely might be, but it's not always the case, not in every single case, at least not of all the people that I've discussed with. So I think you need to remain always in self-awareness. You need to constantly assess your market value and make sure that the skills that you're bringing to the table are still in demand of the market that you're in. I think that's the biggest one. I'm actually going to post in the comments under this video a blog that I wrote probably 8 weeks ago on how to assess your professional worth, and I think you need to do that. I think you need to keep on your skill set. So I think once you do a self-assessment, if you still believe it's age discrimination, this is where I need people to comment who've gone through it, any advice they can give to people to help cope with it. As I said, it's illegal in most countries, so I don't know. This is something that you can bring up with human resources or with a lawyer, but depending on the circumstances and the examples that are what you're going through, you might need to be doing that. Overall, I think we need to do professional worth, make sure that the values that you're bringing to the position you're in justify your market value. That, you're bringing lifelong learning, you're bringing an open mind, you're being adaptable and flexible as things change. Markets change over time as you see companies change over time. That's kind of my 2 cents on the topic. Anybody with questions, always please DM me on any of my social media sites or my website, worklessons101.com. Please comment on age discrimination within the comments, and let's get this discussion started. Thank you. Have a great day.